Hi everyone, Angus Campbell here. It's now Thursday the 18th of April. Back in the garage this evening and in front of the A70 Lightning, the rudimentary rolling chassis of which you're looking at the moment. And the reason why we've set it up like this this evening is that we're going to get some of the front end work done and continue with this. So front mudguard and headlight now have received some more fittings in the post today. Some people have been asking me why I've still got the tank and indeed the airboxes and side panels on. You know, they might be in danger of being damaged, etc. Well, I tend to find that actually they're less at risk of being damaged when they're on the bike than they are lying around with the rest of the paraphernalia in the garage. And after all, once the bike is finished, they're going to stay on the bike most of the time as well. And the ones in the garage seem to survive okay. So that's why once they're on and loosely fitted, I tend to leave them on actually for safekeeping. They're off the floor and away from the shelves and away from things usually falling on them. So anyway, let's get down to business on the firstly, the front mudguard. So the first thing I'm going to do is front mudguard is just held on by 4 1/4" UNF bolts. They secure brackets that wrap around rubbers on the mudguard stay. So what you have is a pair of almost, half concave brackets that are pressed together to form a circle around the bracket on each side of the mudguard. And I'm struggling here a bit because the mudguard is caught underneath the forklift, so let's just get that out. So I've been moving the bike around a little bit. There we go. And just generally tidying up. So on the front mudguard itself, get it out. Clang clang. On the mudguard itself, on the wire stays on each side, you've got an area that's bounded by 2 butt flaps, and the wraparound bracket. Let's grab that. If you like, clamps that from either side against rubbers that you put around the this wire stay. Just circular cylindrical rubbers, and obviously you've got to cut one side of those to actually fit those over the wire stay. You'll notice that this mudguard has got 3 fixing points for the wire stays, one in the middle and one at the other end. Originally, when these bikes were first produced, they didn't have this centre wire stay, and that was added at a later stage to the design when they realised, with respect to these mudguards, especially the longer ones with the longer nose, which were for the home market. The US ones were shorter and finished about here, but the longer ones, they found that these were fracturing at the frontier due to vibration, and therefore inadequate, if you like, securing of the mudguard itself, and so an extra stay was positioned. What they did find though, that with the original just sort of two mounting point mudguard, is that if there was a front number plate fixed to the top here, that actually acted as an additional brace, and those mudguards with the front number plate mounted actually didn't fracture. So it's obviously a slight design flaw with, as I say, these longer mudguards, which are about 2 to 3 inches longer at the front than the shorter ones, and in fact my Rocket 3 and the Show Fury have got the shorter guards. The Bandit and my Fury SS have got the longer guards, and the Fury SS is going to come with a front number plate, because the original Mudguard I had re-chromed for that has got the mounting holes in it. But anyway, back to this one. This one for the Lightning hasn't, so therefore we'll not bother with that. But having said that, it's a later three-way stay mounting point anyway, so this will be okay. So before we actually mount that up, the first thing that we'll do is put that down gently, but also I always check the holes within the castings on the fork legs for the quarter UNF bolts to make sure the threads are clean. So I'm just going to run a quarter UNF tap down it. Down each one. I'm sure they're pretty clear, but the reason mainly that I'm doing this is that I seem to remember that when I first purchased this bike, when it was in a bit of a state, it was in roughly one piece and in a bit of a state. It actually didn't have a mudguard attached, but these are pretty clean. That's winding in really nicely, and there's no loop on that at all. Actually, there's no resistance there at all. One-handed, no force. No swarf coming out. Coming up nice and clean. A little tiny bit on there, but not too bad at all. Do that to all four. Just be careful at the start not to cross thread. There she goes. A little bit tighter that one, so we'll get a bit of lubricant. This one is a bit firm, so I'd rather do this and just spend a bit of time to clean out the threads. That's better than to just try and force a bolt down it. Some people use obviously stainless bolts on these, and they can stretch, and actually they can shear if you get too much resistance, and then you're left with a problem drilling them out. That's plenty far enough. Out by hand, so yeah, that's good. Okay, 2 down, 2 to go. this one's beautiful. No resistance at all. Now then, this last one here, I've deliberately left until last because this side was slightly damaged, so when I rebuilt these forks in the earlier video, I did have to dress this side up a little bit and also drill this a little. But I think, if I remember rightly, I did run a tap down it at the time. Right, yeah, it's fine. I think I've probably already done that. Because I believe that it's obviously been damaged on the top head there and been, I don't know what they've done, whether it's been hit with a hammer accidentally or something, but certainly it's flattened the top end quite badly, and it compressed the original hole, and I had to drill it and tap it, I believe. Certainly this is going in okay now. Good. Okay, top and dice it out of the way. So I bought these brackets new, so they are patterns. These have been zinc plated originally, certainly in the early builds of these bikes. They were painted black by the factory, but they all seem to become zinc plated these days. I'm not complaining about that, but they do come as a set normally with the quarter inch UNF by I think they look like 3/4 of an inch, and also the circular cylindrical rubbers that wrap around the wire stays. Obviously, as I say, you've got to slit one side of these to get them around the wire. But in this case, in this kit, they've then gone and supplied spring washers for the bolts, which is correct, but they're unplated, so they'll rust. So I'll swap those out for. Well, I thought I had plated ones, but I've got stainless, and they'll be fine, really. So we'll use those. Right, next job then, before we actually just mount this up, is to cut the rubbers. And I'll just nip over to the bench and do that with the Stanley, and obviously with protective gear on, and then I'll bring you back. Back in a sec. Okay, that only took a minute. There's 4 rubbers, if you like, one for each end of each bracket. 3 of these have already been deliberately split, so you can open them out and put them around the wire. One hadn't, but the one that hadn't is actually a slightly different internal diameter to the others, which is bloody annoying and just typical of bloody pattern parts, which sometimes I get infuriated about. I'll come on to that a bit later towards the end of this video, because I'll show you. Well, I've already talked about anomalies with respect to you know, the aluminium trim strip on the tank. The pattern one was terrible. Looked good, but actually it was the wrong fit. I'll show you the rear mudguard because I bought a new pattern one, but I have got the original, which would need plating, but is in actually good nick, but it would need plating, so it's actually cheaper to buy a new one. But the pattern one isn't quite the same diameter. It'll fit, you know, with a bit of jiggery pokery, Also hasn't got the front bracket. But anyway, I'll show you that in a moment. I digress. Let's get on with this front mudguard first. So first things first, get the rubber on the wires. Flanged end towards the flat butt-up point. See, that's the one that's slightly the wrong diameter, so we're going to get a bit of an opening like that where the slit is, but that doesn't really matter, to be honest. Whereas this one is the right diameter and slides up and down, but that'll be okay. The whole idea of all this is that the mudguard is rubber mounted, and I presume that was originally to try and prevent vibration fractures. And as I say, originally with the early guards with only the two mounts on each stay, it didn't work. Right, next thing is you can then bring that through from, I was going to say from the back, but actually I'm right, because I got the mudguard the wrong way around. That's better. The middle wire stay goes behind the forks, so it basically ends up like that. And the other thing to bear in mind with this as well is that in the parts book, the way that the mounting brackets are drawn seems to imply that the mounting brackets go this way up, and therefore, if you like, the wire stays sit. Let's do the other way around, leave it on this side so you can see it. The parts book seems to suggest that the bracket goes this way round, so that the wire stays go above, if you like, the mounting flange. That's wrong. It's the other way round. So you go that way round, and then you'll find that the mudguard is a flush fit against the tyre on the correct size wheel. You'll notice if you search on the net, you'll see some photographs of A65s with these brackets the wrong way up, the right way up according to the parts, but the wrong way up, and the mudguard is a mile away from the tyre, and I just think that looks absolutely ridiculous and it's wrong. And the reason I know that is because I'm fortunate enough to have the Show Fury, which is original and unrestored, and obviously that tells me which way around the brackets should be. And with all my other bikes that have the same mounting, then all the brackets are this way up, so the wire stay goes underneath the mounting flange. Right, now this is where you need 3 hands. So first of all, we'll have 2 wrap round one side with 1 bolt, and we'll see if we can catch it. You get finger marks all over the mudguard when you're doing this mounting, but that's easy enough. This mudguard is one that I had in stock and came with another bike, and it is an original, and it had a couple of dents in it, and I got those beaten out by a local supplier and got it re-chromed at a local supplier as well, and it's in good nick. So on this side, here we go. So I've got the brackets wrapped around the wire stay. I've got the bolt through both holes. Now I'm trying to screw it in. That's where the fun starts. Okay, got it. It started. Here we go, winding in now. That's good. Winding in with fingers, fantastic. Okay, and that's enough to hold it there, so you can then locate the second one. She's in, I think. Yep. I'll do the other side. Sometimes with these, the wires aren't quite true, but there's enough space and leeway with the flanges and the brackets to at least get the bolts started, and then with a bit of wiggling and jiggery pokery you can slowly clamp them up. So that's one on the other side. And then we just want to make sure that the rubber shoulders are this side of the bracket, which that one is, and this one's going to take a bit of jiggery pokery. I think last bolt with spring washer. There she goes. Screwing in finger tight, lovely. So right, I think that's 7/16 head. Grab the spanner. Little 7/16 ring. Yeah, it is 7/16. Tighten them up so they're flush. I think I said it in a previous video, always mount the mudguard first, before the wheel. I have done it the other way around, and it's an absolute pain to get these in with the wheel in place. There's just no room to work whatsoever. In fact, I've just realised there's the Rocket 3 front wheel behind there, and you might just be able to see where the mudguard stays are in relation to the rim. These bolts that I'm doing up end up just below the line of the rim, so you can actually mount and dismount a front mudguard with the wheel in, but you can't get your hand in at all to do the bolts up. It's so fiddly, it takes so much longer. Okay, would help if mine wasn't in the way, but anyway, you get the idea. Let me tighten these bolts up, and then I'll bring you back and we'll get on to the next job, which is going to be headlight and clock mounting rubbers. Okay, mudguard all on and secure. I'll give you a wider shot of that a little later, once we've done the other couple of jobs at the front. So the first one is to mount up the headlight. Previously we've mounted up the two wire stays with quite an intricate mounting system, and again it means that these are rubber mounted, secured through the top yoke, hole through the top yoke with donuts on the top, and then on the bottom yoke to the bottom yoke pinch bolts, and with shouldered bolts on the extension of those bolts to secure a loop with a rubber insert. So it means then that these brackets are flexible, and that it tries obviously again to protect the headlight from vibration. And just what we need to consider then mounting this up is that you don't use standard washers on the headlight to go through the stays. Use special washers that have got folded over tabs on them, and those tabs should, if these are the right size, fit around the loop of the wire stay. And there's 4 washers, all identical, one on each side. The bolt goes through the middle and into the headlight, and then that secures the headlight onto the wires. So, but it does use the standard headlight mounting bolts, the chrome bolts. So that's an easy enough job to do now. So I'll just grab the headlight. It's on the bench. So here we are. It is a new headlight. The one that came with the bike is a disaster and is rotten. So this is the 71 standard headlight, shallow flat-backed rubber boot on the back that holds some of the wiring and the connectors, 3 warning lights across the back, and the main headlight switch on the top. And there it is, complete with bulb. And one thing that I've forgotten that's over on the bench are the bolts. So the headlight comes with the bolts that screw directly into the captive nuts or threads in the headlight itself. They come with a standard washer. I'll just check in the. I've just had a thought. I'm being stupid here. We can't mount the headlight yet because it's not mounted with the standard bolts. It's mounted with the indicators, and I haven't got an indicator set. I've only done this 4 or 5 times in the past, so we shan't be doing the headlight tonight because we've got the washers, and I think I've got an indicator set, but I haven't sorted them out yet, and I need to make sure they're the right length as well, because indicators came in several stem lengths, and I haven't sorted them out yet, so we won't be doing that now. So on to the next job, which will be just to put the rubbers in the brackets for the clocks. Again, simple enough to do, but we'll put this to one side safely and come back to that when I've sorted out the indicators and the stems. Rubber's dead easy to circular with a rim flange that just presses into these brackets. You've got to make sure with these that there are 2 smaller holes which secure the studs of the clocks in, and these, if you like, sit front to back. But it's easy enough to spin these in the brackets really anyway. basically just press them in. You have to deform a little bit to get them in. But again, these are new ones. They perish. Just got to gently tease it in. Just got to be patient with it. Once you get it started, it's okay. Put a fold in it, get it most of the way around, and then the fold will pop out once you've got the groove lined up with the bracket. Gently seat it, seat the bracket into the groove, and then the rubber, there we go, reforms into a circle. A little bit of kink there. There we go. Yeah, perfect. Okay, that's fine. What I tend to do with these before I put the clocks in, I've just found another part that's not quite right. That's it. There she goes. What I tend to do with these before I put the clocks in is I tend to treat them with tyre dressing, because that does keep them clean, but also and black, but also allegedly it does protect them from UV light, so the rubber doesn't perish so quickly. Right, on the other side, again, the smaller mounting screw holes should be front to back roughly, and that will then ensure that the clocks, firstly, are the right way up, and secondly, they don't spin, because again, that's a problem with some of the earlier bikes with this type of mounting, is that sometimes the clocks would spin around as you were riding, and these later ones prevent that. little screwdriver, it's not quite seating properly. Okay, that's it. That's those done. They're, as you can see, they're moving. The brackets are moving about a little bit at the moment, and that's because I've not done up the fork top nuts tightly just yet. I just want to top up the fluid in them a little if necessary. I think we're okay, but I just need to check I've done that before I tighten those up finally. That's that job done. Okay. Right, well I was hoping to do a few more bits and pieces tonight. But let me turn you around. There we go. I had trouble there turning the camera around. I had to stop videoing to turn the camera on the other side. So there's the front mudguard fitted, all nice and snug, ready for the next job, which will be the front wheel, so we can get the rolling chassis then sitting on the front rail rather than just on an upside down tub at the moment temporarily. There's the headlight mounting brackets ready for the headlight. Not quite got the kit yet, and the rubbers are in. And so there we are, sort of a general view of the bike, and beginning to take a little bit of shape. And as I said, what I've been doing as well is checking the back mudguard. You see the original one that came with the bike. No evidence of any plating left on it at all. Just this strange colour paint. Little bit of rust on it, but actually it's solid in good nick, and it's not dented anywhere, which is unusual. And this is the front of it, and it has this bracket pop riveted to it. The pattern mudguard that I've purchased hasn't got that, as you can see. And if you do some comparison and lining up, it's difficult to see at this angle, but it's not quite the same radius, and there's definitely some anomalies at the front with lengths as well. But if you offer it up to the bike, to the frame, it will actually fit. It's a bit tight at the front, but the bolt holes do actually line up. So that'll be a job that we might get to over Easter weekend too. So Easter bank holiday starts tomorrow, Friday the 19th. So hoping to get quite a bit more done on the bike, and I'm sure I've got a set of indicators and stems for this. And I have been sorting out all the new parts in stock, ready to go. But yes, we'll try and get the front headlight on with indicator stems, rear mudguard. I'm beginning to get the parts together for the electrics tray, the battery carrier, and the tool tray there. They're all ready, and I've done a preliminary fit, so they'll go and fill that hole in there. You can see I've got one of the rubber mounting studs for the battery carrier just test fitted there, and that's fine. And the other thing we're going to do is, in this box here are all the brake parts, etc., that were removed in preparation for the hubs to be plated. So we'll be rebuilding the front wheel hub with spindle, brakes, bearings, and the brake plate, which is in one of those boxes as well, the box underneath, because that's obviously been powder coated too. So that's it, a few quick jobs, just to see the bike taking shape, and as I said before, as it comes together it gets quite motivating, but the intention is very much to try and finish the rolling chassis, and then we'll get into the motor down here, which is in a bit of a state and probably threw its left hand rod and broke it, but luckily didn't launch it through the cases, so the cases are good. And that's very important, because on that side there, which you can't see at the moment, is the engine number, which matches the frame number and definitely states A70L, so that provides the authenticity. The crank is obviously going to need regrinding. We've got shells, we've got rods. The crank and the pistons are unique, so we've got to save that crank, even if it's going to need the journals welding up. I don't think it will. I think it'll grind down to -10, so I've got the shells. Pistons I've got standard and +40, A70 pistons. If you know the right people, there are some about, and you can see them. I've seen them advertised occasionally on eBay. Barrel is underneath the head and the rocker cover there. The barrel doesn't look too bad, no ridges in it, and doesn't appear to need a rebore. Might just get away with glaze busting, but we'll have all that checked out. And my view is that I could put new standard pistons in it with new rings and just glaze bust it and see how we get on, but we'll do some proper measuring up with it first, and if that's going to be no good, then we'll bore it out to +40, because I've got +40 pistons and rings too. Okay, that was a quick update. More coming over the weekend, and we'll leave it at that. Thanks very much for watching, everybody, and see you again soon. Cheers. Okay everyone, I'm back sooner than expected. So before I finished in the garage tonight, I decided to do some rooting around and get my indicators that I have out of stock to see what we've got. So first things first, with respect to the long stemmers, I've got 3 of those, and they're for the rear, to go either side of they mount up on the rear light bracket. I can show you that actually. Let's go and have a look at the Rocket 3. There you go. So they mount up on the rear light bracket, but they're quite wide on the bigger bikes, to be seen either side of the light and the number plate. Actually, but as you can see on the Fury, they're shorter ones on the back. On the Fury, the Bandit, and the Fury SS, they're shorter, but on the bigger bikes they're longer. So anyway, we've got the longer ones for the back for the Lightning, and I've got 3 of those, and they're in very good condition. They're fine. Now for the front are the short stemmers, and I've got a couple of them here, but they're old, original, early ones, where you can see the mounting nut at this end is on the outside, whereas later ones were on the inside, like so. I'm tempted to use these because they are authentic, but then, as you can see, they're not in very good condition. I'm going to clean them up and see what they look like. Actually, I have got I thought I had a couple of them. But I've only got one. Oh no, here we go. There's one down here, look. So I've got two with, say, original authentic ones with the inside nut on the outside, if you know what I mean, that would need cleaning up. I've got, though, a spare body, which is in very good nick, and I've got another one with a body that's in good nick, with a very, very short stem. I don't know what that's off at all. That's the shorter stem still. So 3 stem lengths there. But I think out of this lot, I should be able to get a full. Well, certainly there'll be a serviceable set. They're all, you know, reasonable. Some are very good and some are reasonable. I wouldn't be too bothered about putting them on, but we'll just see if they can clean up a little bit better. And we'll still have then a couple of 2 or 3 spares actually for all the bikes in case we get any lenses damaged and things like that, which quite often happens. So I'll clean up these 2 original. I was going to call them short stem, but I suppose they're medium stem now, and we'll see what they look like. Okay folks, got the job roughly done. Still got a bit of cleaning up to do on these original indicators and stems, but they've come up really much better than I expected, and the camera lies a little in that they're not quite as good as obviously the new chrome on the headlight and the in the Mudguard. But actually, this one, the left-hand front, I've spent quite a bit more time on, and it really has come up quite well. The surface is a little tiny bit pitted in places, which you'd expect, and you can just see 1 or 2, but it's not bad at all. And that stem's really, it feels a little rough, but it's come up really well. The other one, the other one is in better condition actually, and I've not spent anywhere near as much time cleaning it up. I just wanted to see if the headlight mounted up okay, and after a bit of a messing about, it did. You can see there's a bit of an angle on the right hand stem, so that means that this wire bracket here needs bending in a little bit, or the whole lot. It's fairly central. If you look at the rubber there with the headstock, that's pretty central actually. It's not bad, and I might not worry too much about that really, and maybe do a little bit of bending, but it's got to be tightened up yet anyway, and that'll trip it up to a certain extent. But yeah, pretty pleased with that. So if we stand back and take a wider look at it, progress, like it. So that's definitely all from me. It's getting a little bit late this evening on Thursday the 18th of April. So we'll leave it there, but we'll crack on with a bit more over the weekend, as I say, and focus on rear mudguard, front wheel, and the electrical tray, tool tray, and battery carrier. Okay, thanks very much everybody for watching. Definitely going this time. Cheers, bye.